Okay, welcome everyone to the September 21st Ninth Ward meeting. Thanks everyone for coming.
Hola, bienvenidos todos a la reunión del día 21 de septiembre para la novena sección. Gracias a todos por venir.
We will start off our meeting with a presentation from Rodney Orr, who is here from Connections for the Homeless, here to speak about the Evanston's Equitable Zoning Project.
Vamos a empezar la reunión con nuestra presentación con el señor Ronnie Orr, que él nos representa las conexiones y va a hablar acerca de las personas que no tienen hogar.
Hey, hello, my name is Rodney. I am a community organizer with Connections for the Homeless. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really excited to share with you all about our presentation and tell you a little bit or our project and tell you a little bit about what we're doing today.
Hola, mi nombre es Ronnie, soy la persona que representa las comunicaciones y conexiones de las personas que tienen sin hogar. Les voy a presentar un proyecto referente a ello.
Great, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Voy a compartir mi pantalla.
Okay, can you see my screen okay?
¿Pueden ver ustedes la pantalla bien?
Yes.
Great.
Sí.
Okay, so about the Equitable Zoning Project. So Connections is an organization that works to end homelessness one person at a time. We provide 4 different services. Sorry, go ahead.
Sí, acá vamos a hablar acerca de las conexiones de las zonas de proyecto de equidad. Hay 4 maneras de cómo usted puede participar.
So with those 4 services, we provide direct services to people who have who are currently experiencing homelessness. So we provide a shelter service for them called the Margarita Inn.
Ok, una de las cosas que ustedes pueden ver, nosotros podemos también proporcionar un servicio directo a las personas que no tienen un hogar, un lugar donde quedarse, que se llama Margarita. Did you say Margaritaville?
Margarita Inn.
No, se llama la Casa de Margarita.
We also provide drop-in services at our location at the Lake Street Church.
También nosotros tenemos otra forma que puedes tú ir a ese servicio, que es en la calle Lake.
Sí.
Está una iglesia en una esquina.
And then we also provide preventative services to people who are at risk of losing their housing. We support them with that as well.
Y también nosotros ofrecemos unos servicios de prevención para aquellas personas que tienen la posibilidad de perder sus hogares.
So one thing that we have learned through the work that we've done is that homelessness is really affected by what it is that a city allows to be built in certain neighborhoods and certain areas. And that is what we call zoning.
Una de las cosas por que hemos ido aprendiendo que las personas sin hogar les afecta es por cómo están ubicadas las zonas de las casas.
So zoning is something that can make it really difficult to build housing that is affordable for people. And that can also lead to some of the issues that we see with homelessness.
Y eso es una dificultad que las personas es muy posiblemente que no pueden alcanzar tener una casa.
So 3 things that are reasons why people should care about zoning.
3 razones como ustedes pueden tener, interesarse acerca de las zonas.
So one reason is that zoning has a large impact on housing costs because it limits what type of housing can be created and where it can be created.
Uno es cómo es la longitud de una casa, el impacto que puede tener a la hora de crearse.
Also, nearly half of houses in Evanston are paying nearly 30% of their income on housing.
Casi el 30% de las casas se pagan con los ingresos de las casas, de los propietarios.
And then finally, a study was done recently, and for every $100 increase in rent, homelessness increases by up to 9%.
Y por cada $100 que se eleva, hay un promedio de un 9% de personas sin hogar.
But that's not all that zoning impacts.
Eso no es solamente lo que impacta a una zona.
So zoning actually impacts a lot of things that are a part of our everyday life.
Zoning impacta en muchos aspectos de nuestra vida cotidiana.
It impacts anything from where you can live to where you can work to where your kids can go to school.
Impacta, por ejemplo, dónde tú puedes vivir, dónde tus hijos van a la escuela, dónde trabajas.
It impacts all aspects of your ability to live where you live.
Impacta básicamente en todos los aspectos de hábiles donde tú puedes vivir o moverte también.
So we had a group called ZoneCo do a study in Evanston to look at the current zoning code.
Nosotros tenemos un grupo que se enfoca en cómo hacer un código de las zonas.
And they found that the Evanston zoning code had a lot of room for improvement and actually doesn't talk about equity or the lives of residents at all.
Y este grupo ha visto que hay ciertas áreas en Evanston que se pueden improvisar y puede haber equidad.
So we, after getting this information and research from ZoneCo, we wanted to look more into how zoning actually is affecting people in their day-to-day lives.
Antes de seguir buscando muchas más información, nosotros tenemos que saber cuál es el impacto que hay con respecto a las zonas, a las zonas dentro de Evanston.
So using this idea of Evanston's zoning regulations should support the community's commitment to well-being, equity, and prosperity of all residents.
Evanston, las zonas de regulaciones de Evanston debería ser un apoyo a la comunidad y que se comprometa para el bienestar de equidad y de todos los residentes.
We came up with this root question: are all residents feeling the benefit?
Nosotros hemos venido con esta pregunta: ¿todos los residentes realmente se sienten beneficiados?
So to summarize, we will be looking at well-being, equity, and prosperity in zoning and how it impacts people's lives.
Y para poder hacer un resumen, nosotros nos hemos enfocado en el bienestar, en la equidad y la prosperidad que hace un impacto a toda una comunidad.
And so I'm here today to let you all know about this project, as well as give you all the opportunity to ask any questions you may have.
Yo estoy aquí para poder a ustedes darles esta información y esta oportunidad para aquellas personas que quieran informarse y saber más, y también estoy dispuesto a escuchar algunas preguntas.
So if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and then at the end, I will put a link in the chat so that you can sign up to stay up to date about the Equitable Zoning Project.
Si tienes alguna pregunta, hágamelo saber. También estoy poniendo en la casilla de mensaje el enlace para que usted pueda informarse más detalles.
Okay, thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Rodney. Just looking to see if anyone's raised their hand.
¿Alguien quiere dar una opinión? Levanten la mano si es que tienen alguna pregunta.
I have one comment. I just want everyone to know I recently was appointed on the Housing and Community Development Committee.
Tengo un comentario que recientemente he participado del equipo de la zona de equidad.
And I'm looking forward to working on the affordable housing piece for the community. There's a lot of things we can be doing. It's not an easy problem to tackle, but I really would like residents to be engaged and involved in making these decisions and open-minded to changing the way we do things.
No es una pieza muy fácil, pero estoy muy abierto a que recibir comentarios, que los residentes puedan participar y traer ideas, aportar conocimientos también y ver la manera de cómo puedan salir beneficiados.
And I see Lucy has her hand raised, I think.
Lucy levantó la mano.
Yeah, hi, Rodney. A while back, the Connections was getting a lot of static about the Margarita Inn. Is that calmed down at all?
Yeah, so I believe with the Margarita Inn, so I work on the advocacy team, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that in terms of like the actual purchase itself. And I'll continue if once translation. Are we doing translations for that? Sorry.
Celia?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah. So so I'm not sure where the purchase with it that is. However, we are holding community listening sessions, or we have held them. We held, I think, about 10 or so in the past month or so. And we had really good discussions with that and really good conversations about the organization and people's concerns and things like that. So I believe there is a community meeting actually tonight that's going on with that, where they will be summarizing all of the findings for that, summarizing or probably telling everyone what's going on with that in terms of the purchase. I'm not sure, and then what the next steps are. So if that, I'm not sure exactly where that is, but you might be able to see that either today or soon in coming days, depending on what that meeting was like.
Thank you.
I couldn't capture the question, Lucy said.
Oh, some months ago, there was quite a bit of resistance to housing the homeless at the Margarita Inn, and I was just curious how that was faring.
Okay. Hace unos meses atrás había una resistencia de que no podían albergar a personas en Margarita Inn. Por el momento están desarrollando reuniones para ver cuáles son las soluciones y cuáles son los pasos a proceder con respecto a ese tema.
Matt, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering what what your timeline for this looked like, Rodney, and just who would you be reaching out to? You know, is this going to be something you're going to try to do community wide?
Mm-hmm.
Esto es, quisiera saber cuál es el tiempo y cuál es cómo uno puede tener un contacto con la persona acerca de estos eventos que van a suceder con tu proyecto.
Yeah, so I should have mentioned this. We actually are so first with the timeline, we are hoping to have this done by the beginning or the end of the year. We would really like to have all of the community input, so hearing everyone's opinions, stories, things like that, by the end of the year.
Esto está en un tiempo estimado como a fin de año. Lo que nosotros queremos saber es la opinión de las personas dentro de la comunidad y a fin de año es muy posible que tengamos ya una fecha definida.
Yeah, and we are really excited. We actually have 7 community partners on the project with us. Evanston Own It, Evanston Latinos, Evanston, or Radio La Difference, NAACP, and Advocates for Action. I should know all these. 2 more, VAJM Consulting and Lisa Laude Consulting. So we have 7 organizations that are pretty much in every corner of Evanston working on this project to reach as many groups as possible with the actual input itself. They were each given $5,000, I believe, to support with the input process and getting people as engaged with the process as possible. So.
Nosotros tenemos como 7 socios que nos están apoyando también de una manera financiera. Hay como $5,000 que nos están dando y para poder dar este beneficio a las personas. Tenemos también dentro de los 7 socios a Evanston Latino, Radio Diferencia, Acción y Vocación y otros más.
Yep.
We have another hand raised.
Otra mano veo por ahí.
They're no name. I'm not sure who that is.
Hi. This is Tina Payton.
Hi.
Hi, Tina.
Hi. I'm sorry I got cut off a part of the presentation, but I just heard you mention that each group got $5,000 that you mentioned. So I'm not sure what that means. You paid, Connections paid the people $5,000, or could you explain that a little bit?
No, sorry. So actually for this project, we received, I'm so sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
No he estado a tiempo dentro de la reunión, he llegado después. Quiero saber cómo es el dinero que nos dan, $5,000 cada socio, Connection lo paga, ¿cómo es? ¿Me puede explicar?
So Connections actually received several grants for this project. So we received grants from CMAP and then a few, I believe a state level grant and another organization grant. So these were grants that were given specifically for the community input. So we took that grant money and that is what is being dispersed to the community partners.
Okay, so, sorry, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
La manera como es, nosotros recibimos fondos de ciertas instituciones como CIMA, State Level, y que todos ellos nos dan el fondo y nosotros lo ponemos en práctica para los proyectos de la comunidad.
So can I ask another question?
Sure.
Of course.
Otra pregunta.
Okay, so you're talking about rezoning, and is this across Evanston or just in the 9th Ward? I'm sorry if you answered this already, but I didn't really hear that.
Esto es para poder hacer las zonas, ¿esto es por toda la ciudad o solamente en el área de la 9ª sección?
Yeah, no, great question. So this will be all of Evanston, everyone in Evanston, as well as the NAACP is really interested in people who have roots in Evanston, so might not necessarily live here, but have had establishment here through family or some way. So they're going to be specifically looking at people who aren't in Evanston, but the rest will be really trying to work with Evanston residents.
Sí, esto es una buena pregunta. Este proyecto es para todas las áreas de Evanston.
And your goal is okay. What is the final date for this collection of information,
Mhm.
and what is your goal at the end of this survey process?
Sí, ¿cuál es el tiempo para esto y cuál es el fin, el proyecto a alcanzar?
Yeah. So so the community input will end around December, we hope. After that, we are planning to take the information that we gather and create some sort of report. All of the community partners will work together to create this report and help get it out to their various communities. So the hope is to use this one as a model for how to do this type of work. As far as we're aware, there's never been a large study on zoning that has focused so heavily on specifically communities that have largely been excluded from these conversations. But also just zoning in general, this kind of study is something that we're finding hasn't really been done very much. So this is a really great opportunity to break ground in this field and look at how zoning actually impacts people's lives, their everyday lives. So that's one thing, and I'll give time for translation.
Ya, esto es un proyecto que estamos trabajando y queremos modelar y ver cómo nos funciona. Tenemos una fecha determinada para diciembre. Cuando tengamos toda la información, vamos a hacer un reporte y vamos a ver un modelo de trabajo y vamos a ver cómo esto puede ayudar a que no haya tantas barreras en nuestra comunidad entre las personas que no tienen un buen ingreso de cómo poder sustentar un hogar.
Yeah, so another slightly more, I guess, local reason is the city actually has to do a comprehensive plan every some years or so. And part of that, at least we're hoping, can be looking at zoning in Evanston. Zoning has always been a really important topic, and it's something that we are really hoping we can at least get the conversation rolling on looking at how we can get some of this input to actually make some change in Evanston.
Otra de las razones es que la ciudad de Evanston siempre está viendo cómo hacer un plan cada año y nosotros con este plan de las zonas dentro de Evanston queremos también crear momentos de conversaciones con las personas de la ciudad de Evanston y querer con esto hacer un impacto nuevo en la ciudad de Evanston.
Yeah, and then last, I guess, is education. So our groups are, the community partners are really interested in just getting the education out there about how much zoning actually impacts. So really a big focus of the input process is going to be getting as much education around zoning as possible to people.
Y una de las otras más razones, como último, es la educación. Queremos nosotros con esto crear y formar a la comunidad cuánto realmente impacta los lugares de zonas.
So I have another question. So do you have any zoning? So I'm trying to understand, usually when people are talking about zoning, they're either trying to acquire something and change the zoning or somehow alter the code or get use, special use. So is there some kind of goal like Connections is going to buy different properties around Evanston and change the zoning, or what is the end result here?
Cuando hablamos de las zonas dentro de una ciudad, muchas veces pensamos que algo queremos cambiar o queremos hacer algo en especial. Es que ustedes van a comprar propiedades y hacer cambios. ¿Me puedes explicar un poco más acerca de esto?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think so. First of all, we're not really looking for any specific changes or anything like that. What we actually were interested in is basically the idea that zoning influences a lot of the areas of where we are supporting folks. So how it increases, how zoning can impact property values, which can impact rent costs, which increases homelessness rates and things like that. So we're just seeing that zoning can have a large influence on a lot of the aspects of the work that we do. So that's why we're interested in the study of this. This all is just a research study. We're just interested in looking at how that has impacted specifically housing. A big part, so I guess to be clear, while it is a connections project, the project is being pretty much exclusively spearheaded by our advocacy team. So our advocacy team fights specifically for affordable housing. So we are really looking at this to see how it impacts housing. And a part of that is looking at how, or I guess to sort of take that and how it's impacting housing, we were also interested in how it impacts other aspects of the community. So that's sort of how, like, looking at how it impacts homelessness to how it impacts housing to how is it impacting the entire community. It's sort of like how this project came to be. There really isn't an end goal in terms of specific policies or anything like that. We just are really seeing that zoning is something that time and time again can impact the ability to develop affordable units or impact people's ability to live in certain places. So that's really where it's coming from with this. And that's what the grant money is for, is to research it.
Ok. Bueno, no tenemos realmente un goal específico. Esto es una investigación que queremos hacer, estudios, y queremos a la vez también decir cómo esto influye en las áreas de zonas, cómo influye mucho en la manera como uno vive, cómo también puedes generar un valor a tu propiedad, también cómo puede generar que se crean personas que no tengan un lugar donde estar. Entonces, estamos ahora investigando, estudiando, viendo cómo podemos mejorar nuestra comunidad. No hay algo realmente específico, pero queremos hacer este estudio y esta investigación con el apoyo también de todos los miembros de la comunidad.
It looks like Fred had a question.
Yes,
¿Una pregunta?
I'm sure you're aware of today that the Feds increased the interest rate by 0.75%. I'm sure that it's not going to help the homeless situation. It's going to exasperate it. And so, how Rodney and Juan, how can this be dealt with?
Puedes ver que hay como un 3% ahora que va a impactar en las casas. Me imagino que eso no va a ayudar a las personas que no tienen un hogar.
I mean, there's a lot of things happening that is kind of exacerbating the homeless problem. I don't have a answer for that, Fred, but it is concerning. It's a good point.
Well, it's not. Sorry.
Es una buena pregunta lo que dices, Fred. No tengo la respuesta adecuada ahora mismo. Hay muchas cosas que están pasando dentro de la ciudad que realmente están afectando a las personas que sin hogar.
It certainly isn't going to help it, unfortunately.
Desafortunadamente no va a ayudar.
Well, I would like to, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Go ahead.
Ms. Payton, go ahead. I had one comment. Personally, I'm excited about this study because I really would like to find out how we can eliminate some of the barriers to folks kind of creating, naturally occurring affordable housing, like ADUs and and that sort of thing, which I think certain folks would like to maybe make changes on their property but can't because of restrictive zoning.
Personalmente estoy muy animado por este estudio porque va a eliminar las barreras de que las personas puedan tener una casa y también, también es un problema para las personas que quieren hacer cambios en sus hogares y no los pueden hacer porque están determinados a una zona.
Well, I would like to make a comment.
Mm-hmm.
So
Un momento.
the ADUs, well, I would like to know, I know it's been passed and said that ADUs is going to help the low income, but how many ADUs are really rented to low income? And what I consider low income is HUD, which is 30% AMI. Your inclusionary housing ordinance at this time is 50 or 60% AMI, which is so that means these luxury buildings can say they do not accept Section 8. The link was on a meeting a couple of months ago, and they're building a second tower. And they said, I asked them, will you be taking Section 8 certificates? And they said no. And all of these, and there's a misconception, or people maybe don't understand that the inclusionary housing ordinance eliminates HUD participants. So the real true people that need help will not be helped through the inclusionary housing ordinance. So you need to look at that, number one. And then number two, I myself provide affordable housing for over 50 years, my family. And the landlord, the small landlord, is the one that is providing these resources. We have 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. We've worked with Connections for many years, as well as Center of Concern, Section 8, Catholic Charities, Trilogy, and a lot of agencies. These tall buildings here, the E2 and the Albion and the Link and Reserve, they're not taking these programs. So I feel very slighted over the years, and I know that council member that you're new, but you've seen me many times in your short time, and there's no help for the small landlord. And I'm out here sticking my neck out all the time, and I see all these businesses, the stores and the restaurants. They get 50,000, 100,000, and they don't have to do anything. They didn't say here, here retail place or the coffee shop, and they say they didn't tell them you have to have a soup kitchen for the next 10 years. You just give them the money and they go away. And if they close, okay. If they, there's no support for someone like me. And therefore, and we struggled too. Through the pandemic, of course, we had a eviction moratorium, and we suffered a lot. And there's no help for us. And then what's going to happen is people that have smaller properties that do take the housing certificates, they're going to be ended up being bought out by the REITs, the real estate investment trust. And then you will have no chance to get into, because that's already happened here. The Reserve was bought for $65 million last year, and 1717 Ridge was bought for $71 million. These are real estate investment trusts coming in here, and they can see the big picture, buying up the property for Northwestern students and pushing out the lower income. And a few units in these luxury buildings is not going to solve your problem. So I would suggest that all the council members make a plan and not just say you care about affordable housing and blah, blah, blah. You're not making a plan to really address what's going on. And not supporting the small landlord is going to hurt you in the end. So I just want to say that. Thank you.
Ok. Para sumarizar todo lo que dijo, básicamente es que es importante que se vea el apoyo con las personas que son dueños, pero que tienen pocos propiedades, pocos ingresos, y la mejor manera de cómo poder a ellos apoyarlos, que con el tiempo siguen siendo muy afectados, es que todos los consejeros dentro de la ciudad de Evanston se reúnan y hagan un plan para buscar una solución y un apoyo para ellos.
And Ms. Payton, like you hit the nail on the head. I am new here. I know I can't sit on every committee. I know there's the small landlord task force.
That's
so-
going very slow and nowhere as far as I'm concerned.
So I would like please reach out and we can talk, and because like small landlords are an important part of this. So yeah, send me an email and we can chat sometime.
Sure, thank you.
Welcome.
Sí, es muy importante que los pequeños dueños son importantes, esenciales aquí. Por favor, envíame un correo electrónico para poder conversar.
And so I think, okay, and Rodney just posted his email in the chat for everyone.
Rani ha colocado su correo electrónico en la casilla de mensajes, por favor, para que puedan comunicarse con él.
Great. All right. I have, I'll start off with giving the 9th Ward police report that I received from Officer McCrae.
Voy a compartirles el reporte del policía del oficial McCrae.
So it's been a relatively slower month this past month. There were 15, I guess, major incidents.
Este mes ha sido algo más pausado. Han habido 15 incidentes.
I think the one that stands out to me is there was a carjacking on the 19th of August on the 500 block of Elmwood.
Uno de los incidentes que realmente se destacó más fue un robo de auto el 19 de septiembre en la calle Elmwood.
The majority of the other incidents are mostly thefts involving unlocked vehicles or garages.
Uno de los mayores incidentes de ladrones que aparecen es porque los carros no están cerrados y los garajes están abiertos.
One thing that is in the works right now is I've asked EPD to host a catalytic converter marking event at the Levy Center.
Una de las cosas que he preguntado es al EPD que haga un evento en el Levy Center acerca de los can you repeat that?
Catalytic converters.
Catalytic converters.
And so I'm working with them, and details on that and a date will be coming soon.
Okay. Dentro de un día van a tener mucha más información.
I hope that everyone has had the time to watch the police chief forum.
Espero que todos hayan tenido un tiempo para poder revisar el foro del jefe de policía.
I posted the link in the chat, and I hope people can share their feedback.
Lo acabo de adjuntar en la casilla de mensajes. Espero que las personas puedan darnos sus comentarios.
This is a big decision. As much feedback as we can get would be great. And I think this will be a big step towards resolving some of our staffing issues and moving forward.
Esto es una gran decisión, así es que esperemos recibir sus comentarios porque esto va a resolver muchas situaciones.
All right. Second. Okay. We have a question from Ms. Payton.
Yeah, two things real quick.
Mhm.
So where do you want us to say that, make our comments about the police chief, and when do you think you'll make a decision? I do want to say that Shanita Stewart is very a good choice. She's from Evanston and she knows the community, which is something that we need and we lack because a lot of our police and fire and city officials do not live in Evanston and or have not lived in Evanston, so they may not have a grasp of the city. And she is from Evanston, and I think that's very important during this election.
Thank you.
Tengo una pregunta acerca del jefe de policía. Creo que una buena decisión sería votar por Shelleen Sur. Ella es una persona que vive en Evanston y realmente necesitamos representantes que estén dentro de Evanston.
So the candidate link, the link to the candidate forum and the news article had the link to the feedback form, and I also pasted a direct link to the feedback form.
La lista de los candidatos están ahí, así que queremos sus comentarios.
Okay. So this month, on last Wednesday, kicked off Latinx Heritage Month. I just want everyone to know that there's a big celebration this Saturday at Elks Park from 4 till 9. They'll be showing the movie Encanto once it gets dark, but there's going to be food, games, raffles, and a traditional clothing contest.
Bueno, como ustedes pueden saber, la semana pasada empezó la celebración de la herencia hispana. Va a haber un evento en el Park a did you say the day? Which day?
It's Saturday. It is Saturday.
This Saturday.
This Saturday, yes.
Muy bien. Es este sábado la celebración de la herencia hispana en el Parque Elp Park desde las 4 hasta las 9 de la noche. Y van a ver ahí una película que se va a pasar que se llama Encanto. Van a haber juegos, comidas, actividades, también disfraces, así que todos están cordialmente invitados.
I just saw there was a question in the chat. So there were two. So Althea posted that there were several shootings in the 9th. So there were on the ward report. There are 2 shots fired, which did not have any casings or injured people found. I know, and I think it might have been in August, there was a shooting, and I think this was outside the report. There was a shooting, I can't remember the exact date, on Oakton early morning on a Sunday, where there was a crashed vehicle on the 2200 block of Oakton.
Ok, al parecer han habido 2 tiroteos donde cuando hubo los tiroteos no hubo ninguna persona herida. Y hay otro evento que sucedió en la calle Octon, donde hubo un auto que se chocó. Eso es lo que tenemos como información.
So, Ms. Payton?
Yeah, hi, Councilmember. I wanted to know if you were aware of Officer McCrae's condition. I believe last month I heard that he was ill. I got hurt on the job and he was out. Is he back and better now? Do you know that information?
He is. I will, I'm going to do one more announcement, and since that's a little bit of personal information, I will, after I make the last couple announcements, I will stop the recording and I'll share that information.
Thank you.
Voy a compartir la información después que terminamos de grabar esta sesión.
Okay, last couple things. Please check the Evanston Library events list. There are a lot of great Latinx, Hispanic Heritage Month events happening. And then I hope everyone enjoys Bike the Ridge on Sunday. I will be there. Keep a lookout. But I will be there all morning. So please stop by and say hi. I will be riding my bike a little bit, but I will probably be milling around by Ridgeville.
Ok, por favor, chequen la biblioteca de Evanston. Van a haber muchos eventos referente a los latinos por la herencia hispana. También este domingo voy a estar yo personalmente manejando mi bicicleta en la calle Richville, ¿verdad?
Ridgeville Park, yeah.
Yes, Richville Park. Así es que por favor vayan, asistan, si me ven, salúdenme y para poder también conversar un poco.
And there's Althea has her hand raised.
Hi, yes, I'm just following up. September 3rd or 2nd, there was a shooting. I understand 5 casings found at roughly Washington and Dewey, and I've been trying to see follow-up about it. I haven't caught any follow-up. So I was hoping you might have had something. So you're saying they haven't reported to you about that?
I will look at my report, but I didn't see any that had found casings. But I will get back with Officer McCrae and find out specifically. And what was the intersection that you said?
Roughly between Maine and Washington on Dewey.
Oh, that Maine and I don't think they found casings. That's what.
Okay, so I did understand that maybe there was no individual found to have been shot, but there were 7 to 9 shots, and the neighbor who's right there on that street saw the police put down markers, evidence markers, and then take pictures and then collect whatever they found and put it in envelopes and go away. So I just haven't heard anything else about it. And it seems strange that they wouldn't have reported that. It's very concerning to neighbors.
Okay. Yeah, that was on the report. They did not find anything, but I will follow up on that for you, Althea.
Okay, thank you.
I will now stop the recording. Hey, thank you. It's big thanks to Rodney for all that excellent information.
Muchas gracias a Ronnie por esa gran información que nos ha compartido el día de hoy.